On this episode, we talked to retired Sergeant Clive Milligan about his new book, 50 Quick Tactical Tips for Law Enforcement. Okay, Clive, thank you again for coming in today. If you just want to really quickly give a little Cole's notes of your bio to our listeners here.
Sure, Eric. I was hired on by the Vancouver Police Department in 1988. Prior to that, I worked in our Victim Services Unit. That was a volunteer unit that provided assistance to victims of crime. So I was able to work alongside police, and I'd always had an interest in policing since I was a youngster, and that really sealed the deal for me because I was able to see officers at work on duty and assist and recognize that there's a great need for policing roles, and opened the door for me to get into the VPD. I worked for the VPD for 28 years in pretty much all areas, but primarily in patrol in all the different districts. And then in training section. I had an injury in 1992. I was pretty fresh on the job for a few years, which wasn't able to work operationally, so they put me in training. And I'd always been kind of interested in martial arts and karate and fitness and training. So I worked alongside my still mentors, Joel Johnson, who was a VPD trainer. He's retired, and also recently passed away, John Mackay. And they were my two sort of mentors in martial arts and training. So I learned a lot from those guys and everyone else that worked in that section. I went back, worked in the jail for 6 months, and then back operationally in the different districts in the city, and then was offered a full-time position in training in about 2007, I think it was, yeah. After a couple of years of being in internal affairs, which was a 2-year less a day sentence. But again, that allowed me to help officers that had been involved in use of force events and charged and or had complaints levied against them. And if they were acting in good faith, I was able to utilize my knowledge and skills of use of force and be able to explain with the officers' reports why they did what they did. And if they're acting in good faith, it was, I think it was a benefit for them, and it was also interesting for me to work there. After that, I was assigned to the training section, where I spent pretty much the rest of my time, and also started up the crowd control unit back in 1992, and we were there for the Stanley Cup riot. So a bunch of different areas, but finished up in training section at the Tactical Training Center, and retired after 28 years, and went to the police academy, where I just spent 7 years of work with the recruits, also in physical training and defensive tactics.
Nice. Rumor has it that you might have a gym or some facility of some sort named after you.
Well, you see, I'm not allowed to comment on that right now because rumors, unless they're substantiated, as you know, from the internal affairs section, are just hearsay. But yeah, there may be a room, which is really nice. You know, it's kind of fun to come back and see Millie's gym. And
hypothetically, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Awesome. So, police officer, but also an entrepreneur. You run Blue Training Systems. Can you get a little into that?
Sure. In 2009, I started a small garage business, and I recognized the need for some training tools. The main one was called Blue Baton, and it was designed to replicate an officer's baton that he or she has on their duty belt. Before in baton training, we used to use foam sticks, and they were pretty good at the time. You could hit each other with them, but they didn't replicate the same motor programs that an officer has to utilize to access or locate, access, and then deploy their baton. So I created a baton that expands and collapses similar to any portable baton, most of them out there in the market. And also the baton would fit into the scabbard or the holster. So an officer could then, therefore, in training, if the need required, they could take out the training baton, open it, and either de-escalate with it in hand and transition to other tools or to empty hand. It operated exactly the same, but only weighed 3.5 ounces. So if you did have to hit a role player, albeit they had to be wearing pads, the officer could then utilize the baton, and it was on the belt. And that was the big difference between the foam sticks, because they would end up being in the officer's cargo pants pocket, or maybe stuffed down behind their back in their waistband. So it wasn't the same place that they'd have to go to in a dynamic event on the street. So the Blue Baton has been shown at a few trade shows, and I like getting out in front of people and talking. walking the floor. Yeah, it's in a few agencies around North America now. It's kind of gone a bit global, so it's kind of cool to see. Do you guys have any?
I'd say I'd say in Canada, you're probably almost every agency would be using that. I can't really think of offhand, at least a police agency that's not using the blue training equipment.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat to see. Again, it's a small business, and it's been an adventure for sure. I'm not a very smart guy as far as school, etc. But I was able to learn a few things from other people and put it all together, and it's been fun. I really like getting out there and trying to sell some stuff that'll also help the public and the officers be safer.
Yep. If somebody wanted to find that, if they haven't already heard of it, where would they go to?
Well, they can go right to the website.
And that is?
bluetrainingsystems.ca.
bluetrainingsystems.ca. They also have some cuff tape, which is multifaceted and good for many uses.
Yeah, the cuff tape is just again, a little thing I thought about when officers are using handcuffs in training. Quite often the role players, because we started bringing role players when I started here, and they would be complaining about, sore wrists, and they weren't being kind of wimpy about it. It's after, 50 repetitions of metal to skin, depending on the energy used, they were kind of getting cuts and nicks, and maybe the cuffs were in bad repair. So I created this little blue training tape, which is like a kinesiology tape, and it allows for circulation under the skin. It also protects against any sort of impacts or strikes, and it's got some tips on it, like a little cheat sheet. So it reminds officers with a visual reminder to load the cuffs, to control the subject first, and it's got a few other tips and tactics on there as well, so they can utilize that in training to get a better understanding of what they need to do.
Check for tightness and double lock.
Yes, very important.
Beautiful.
When tactically feasible.
Yes, when tactically feasible. All right, so
wait, there's more.
Oh, there's more. Please.
Well, there is a handcuff out there. So if someone wants to see some of the products there, the Blue Training handcuff is keyless, and it allows officers to practice repetitions of takedown, control to cuff, and get the cuffs on, cuffs off pretty quick. And it's also colored blue, so that on your safety search out, the instructor cadre can recognize on the duty belt, hey, there's your live agent, there's your duty pistol, there's your mags. Oops, their eye will be drawn to the anomaly, which is the color blue on the duty belt, to avoid any silver or metallic training cuffs being leaving the building, going out onto the road, which could be catastrophic.
Which has happened.
It has, yeah.
All right, so we've got the police officer.
Did I mention the knife? I'm just kidding. Let's
Okay, we got the police officer, the entrepreneur, and now to author. So just a little bit about that. What got you to write this?
Well, I never read much in school. I didn't read much after school. I don't know, could have been the bad eyes and the glasses as a kid, then the contacts, and then the laser surgery, but I didn't read a lot. I'm starting to read more now that I'm retired. I guess I've just got a little bit more time. But during the years at the academy, we would be given presentations to the recruits on a variety of topics. And in the classroom, particularly winning mind, everything to do with communication skills, de-escalation, and also in the gymnasium when we roll around the mats, there was all these little things that I kept saying, but they weren't really technically in the lesson plan. There were those little nuggets that I'd learned along the way and observed and come up with. So I decided to write them all down and started writing this book in November, not this year, the year before. And that would be 2022. And I came up with a title there's so many tactical tips out there, but I wanted to make them quick and easily referenceable and like a handbook style. So I called it 50 Quick Tactical Tips for Law Enforcement. It also works well for security officers, corrections and sheriffs, anyone that's going to be dealing with the criminal element of the public. And so I wrote 50 tips. They're about a page and a half long, and they sort of drilled down to the meat and potatoes of how to be safer on the road.
Nice. What was the process of writing that?
Well,
you mentioned how long it took.
Like I said, I'm not that technical or very smart with things like that, but I got onto Amazon, and Amazon has a template that allows you to, when you fit the parameters that would be required for the dimensions of the book and the text and the type and the font and all those things, you just start writing, and it'll kind of edit it for you as far as paragraphs, and it can do grammar as well. But I didn't get an actual human to edit it. I didn't want to have it changed at all. I just wanted it to read like I speak, which, as you can probably figure out by now, is kind of off the top of my head and maybe all over the map. But the map of officer safety is written down in this book, and it covers tips that I think are going to be valuable for officers. And like I said, it only takes about a minute or two to read each one, and hopefully they'll translate to officers thinking about this and then watching out for the clues and cues of violent behavior and also a variety of other topics.
Yeah, I think it's a definite must-read for new officers coming in, especially those at the academy or about to hit the road. But I also see it as a good refresher for those of us that have been out here for a while. And sometimes we take things for granted or we forget why we're doing something.
Yeah, for sure. Habits are good if they're good, and habits are bad if they're bad. And I fell into that myself in policing. I sort of didn't know what I didn't know when I first started. And even as I was later on in the years, I was in downtown East Side for 6 years, dealing with a high number and frequent contact with people that had, unfortunately for them, criminal backgrounds or some mental health issues. And I recognized that you got to be on your game the whole time. Complacency is said to kill people, or your lack of preparedness, your lack of awareness, your overall fitness. And there's some things that show, we call them anomalies in the book, that officers can look out for that may be precursors to aggressive or assaultive behavior or criminal behavior. So one of the chapters is called Spot the Difference. And that started out with, actually even before policing, one of my favorite games was in the newspaper after I read the comics and then glanced over the sports. I would look at these two pictures side by each in the comic section, near the crossword puzzles, which I could never do, still can't. And it would be two similar pictures. And you after you look at it, you have to circle 8 maybe differences. Mm-hmm. And when you start to look at it closely, you can recognize that, hey, the dog doesn't have a tail in this picture, it has a tail in that picture. But at first blush, it's a dog, you wouldn't recognize it. When you start to pay attention to what's in front of you, you can recognize some differences. The tree would have one less branch. The flag would be missing an emblem or on sign. So you have to focus on what's different. And when we look at human behavior anomalies, some things are quite telling. And so in the book, I get into what to look out for subversive behavior, furtive glances, how to spot the criminal amongst the crowd.
Just keeping up your situational awareness.
Absolutely, yep. And recognizing that, should I pay attention to this and what's different about this? And sometimes those things are what we call the etheric sixth sense. Like some officers, like, I don't know what it was, but there was something about the building, or there's something about the guy when I was checking him, and they can't really exactly pinpoint what it is. It just happens to be their inner alertness, subconscious, telling them, hey, be careful. So when the officer feels the hair on the back of their neck or the galvanic skin response, something's happening, and I don't know what it is, but they're getting the gut feeling, as it often called, then pay attention to that. So that could be something that you recognized, your brain has processed it, parked it, tied it to a schema or a bundle of knowledge that you had before to say, hey, heads up, something's not right here, and follow up on that. If it ends up being nothing, well, that's a good day. But if it ends up being something that you didn't miss, or you missed because you didn't pay attention to that inner self, then it could be a huge problem. So we look at all those little micro movements and micro expressions, they're called, and where's a person looking? Are they listening when you're speaking, or are they distracted by something else? So hunting for anomalies is one of the chapters. It goes into a few more things about vehicles as well.
All right, so we have 50 quick tips, but what would your top 5 for somebody in law enforcement here, either starting out or already in the game?
Okay, well, let's talk about the 50th one. Yes. Interesting. Start at the back end here and reverse engineer this a little bit. And I don't know if this is a family audience, but I've written very candidly in here. And so the 50th tip is titled, Don't Be an Asshole. And I wasn't sure if I was going to put that in, but I think it's important. And what that generally means is, and this started when I was back at the training center here, I reached out to Lou Savelli, who is a highly decorated NYPD detective, gang interdiction specialist, one of the highest recognized experts in the field. He's retired now, but I reached out because I saw a PowerPoint of his at one of the conferences, maybe ILETA or one of the training conferences. So I reached out and said, hey, is it possible, because we're going to do sort of gang stops here, is there a difference between dealing with a gang member, no gang member, and how do you communicate effectively with these people to make sure that you don't cause any problems? And Dr. George Thompson and his Verbal Judo Institute years ago, when I went to that course in 1992, which really opened my eyes and pretty much saved my butt the whole way through my career and also in my life, talked about respect. And back to Lou Savelli, he said, sure. He says, I won't even send you the PowerPoint. I'm just going to tell you what to write on the whiteboard. I said, okay, I'm listening. He said, take a dry erase marker and draw your best effort of a human sphincter on it. I'm like, okay. So do I have to use different colors for this? He said, if you've got a brown one, sure, go right ahead. So draw an asshole on the whiteboard. He says, then what I tell my guys is I take a red Sharpie, or sorry, don't use a Sharpie, it's indelible, but this should be indelible in the officer's mind, and draw a red dry erase circle around that sphincter, and then take same said red dry erase marker and draw a line through it. And he said, just tell them, don't be assholes. I'm like, wow, what a moment. Yeah, it's indelibly stamped in my mind. And your listeners can probably think, okay, what is he getting at? Well, he simply means this. You don't have to be afraid of gang members. You should be concerned about people that are active criminals and maybe armed and have dealt with the police before and have a criminal mind. But don't be afraid of them. Just be prepared. He says that the error that he's recognized and that I've recognized, and I've committed the same thing as sometimes in policing, is you get a bit frustrated and you want to show your power and you think that being a tough guy, we all need to be tough in mind and tough in body, but also compassionate and courageous. But he said there's no room for you to be discourteous to anybody, particularly a gang member. Doesn't mean you're afraid of them. It just means treat them how you'd like to be treated under similar circumstances. Also a verbal judo accent. Mm-hmm. And that is, if you start being an asshole to people and showing attitude and snarly face, hey, sit down, get over here, give me your ID, what's your name, don't fuck around in my place, this is our streets, blah, 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 it can ruffle feathers quite easily. Like, it's super easy to start a fight. We could probably start a fight in here if we wanted to. It wouldn't be in my best interest, but we could. And so humans have to control, well, police officers in particular and people in authority have to be in control of themselves before they can control others. And certainly profanity, although it's often used and you see it everywhere in multimedia and Instagrams and television and movies and stuff, and even amongst ourselves, is commonplace. But as soon as you start using profanity and aggression and verbal sort of aggression towards someone, it can really piss them off. And so we don't need to be tough guys in that arena. We need to be strong, committed, ready to fight if we have to fight, but you never have to start fights. We just finish them. So challenging someone, calling them out, disrespecting their gangs, disrespecting them in front of their group is called disrespect. Obviously, in slang, it's called dism in the gang slang, and dism means death. So we just got to keep the lid on the pot and don't have to challenge anybody, don't have to be the tough guy posturing around, puffing your chest up. If your chest is already exercised and your biceps are big, well, that's good enough. You don't have to start flexing around people because people don't buy that bullshit anymore. Yep. Back in the day when I started, I recognized and saw a bit of it. And I even got a little pushy with some people once in a while, but it's something I regretted. And it's like, dude, I kind of lost my composure. And once you do that, they've got you. Yep. They've got you either by being rattled, and quite often gang members, if they're, just think about it. If I was a gang member and I could upset an officer so I could take her focus off or his focus off what I didn't want them to find, which would be the gun, which could be some dope in the trunk, I would start, giving a bit of lip and calling them out. And if I got the officer involved in that verbal argument, then they're not going to be able to focus on what it is they need to do, yep, which is find the dope, find the gun. So we just got to maintain the cool, and it's difficult for sure. People challenge police all the time, but being an asshole doesn't help anyone.
No, 100%.
Okay, so that was number 50. Let's go into the verbal arena here. And a high level number 1, which I put right off the top, is if an officer hears this phrase when they're making an arrest or communicating with someone who ultimately is going to probably end up going to jail, it could be a warrant, it could be a vehicle stop. If in that conversation the officer hears this from the subject, I'm not going back to jail, this is a big problem. And it's not to be confused with someone who's arguing the validity of the warrant or the reason they're going to be detained or arrested. That will sound like, hey, I can't go to jail. I didn't do it, man. This is bullshit. Or I got to work, man. If I miss one more day of work, I'm going to get fired. How am I going to feed the family? That's not the same as this number 1, which is why I put it at the start of the book. It says, I'm not going back to jail. So now, when an officer hears that, they need to have the nexus connection to what the person's telling them, and that is, I'm not going back to jail. And it doesn't have to be said with a lot of tone or volume. It's a statement, and the statement should be blatantly clear. They will do, and quite often have done, whatever they need to do to not be arrested, which could be assault, it could be a gun grab, it could be a knife attack, it could be pushing the officer into traffic. They are telling us right now they're not going back to jail. So at that point, when you hear that, it's important to note that we're still in the dialogue arena. Generally, if people are talking, they're not fighting. Mm-hmm. That's always a good sign. So we need to take pause, maybe seek a better place to stand and communicate with this person, explain to them a little bit more. Well, ask them why. So it sounds like you don't want to go back to jail. Well, why is that? I'm telling you, I'm not going back to fucking jail. Well, you are under arrest, and we need to do a few things here right now. So we need to start to negotiate with them if we have time, if the fight's not unfolding, or maybe start to escalate our presence and also the introduction of tools. It could be a taser, it could be getting ready for a fight. Again, moving innocents out of the way. Sir, just step back for a sec. We're dealing with this guy. Move back, stay there. Because this thing could go sideways in a hurry. So when you hear that, I'm not going back to jail, believe them that they do not want to go back, and they may want to die before they go back to jail.
Yeah. And so the big thing is that you actually heard that, because it's so often that we block out what they're actually saying. We say we're nodding our head, yeah, I get
100%.
you, but they're not actually hearing what they're saying.
Yes, absolutely. And Thompson always talked about, to be a good communicator, you have to be a good listener. And that means not saying something that sometimes just to listen and then process, well, what do you think they mean? And if you hear that one, that's a big red light. Like the alarm bell should be going off, like this dude has got another idea here, and I don't want to be in the way of that idea. So we need to prepare for maybe a big fight. What else we got? Oh, number 2. Well, speaking of that, number 2 is called visible handcuff key. This one drives me nuts. I did this when I worked in the jail. I did 6 months in our jail, processing guys in and out of jail. And I kept the jail key visible on I didn't have a duty belt. We just had a jail key. It was a big honking thing, like 5 or 6 inches. It was kind of cool to carry around. I thought, yeah, I got the key here. And the problem is, if it's visible and somebody wants to take it from you, it's probably quite easy. So being in the action-reaction curve, if someone wants to smash me on the neck and make me fall down, they can grab the key because they know where it is. Now, when we go on to operational duty officers on the street, you'll often see cops walking around with their pistol, they got the taser, they got all this visible stuff. Those are tools we need at the ready, obviously, in the open. But you also see handcuff keys hanging off their duty belt. Some even have a lanyard attached to the handcuff key. The problem with that is, if I'm that guy that wants to escape lawful custody, I'm not probably going to do it at the site of the arrest. So yeah, I got a Canada-wide warrant or U.S.-wide felony warrant or something. I'm going to play it pretty cool if I'm the predator. I'm the asocial predator. And I'm not going to cause a big, huge fight right off the bat, because I'll probably get tied up with a hobble restraint device, a couple of cuffs, and escort. I'm going to cool things off and say, oh, sorry, officer, yeah, you got me, man. I've screwed up. I need to go back to jail, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to trying to create an air of cooperation. And then when it's a little better for me, I'm going to smash the officer, even if I'm in handcuffs, I'm going to smash the officer's knee, make him fall down, stomp on his neck, make them go unconscious. And then I know where the key is because I can see the key hanging there when I was talking to him, when I was getting handcuffed and getting searched and getting arrested and served my Miranda, my charter. And so I just say, hide that key. Put it in a deep pocket somewhere because it never needed in an emergency. It's important to check for tightness and double lock, but that's after the sort of dust was settled. And when we're decuffing people, for sure the cuff key has to come out. But having it hang on a duty belt is like a lure for a hungry shark. It's just visible and I see where it is. It'll make it even faster for me to get it. But if I don't know where it is, that might take it out of my mind. And if I've planned to knock an officer down the ground, stomp on his neck, and then take the key, it's so easy. Cuff keys haven't changed for 100 years. So out of sight, out of mind. Did I hit the key points on that one? Okay, let's go to number 6. Brake lights on, beware. Well, brake lights stay on, beware. So like yourself and like all the guys and gals here, you focus on what's current and what's evolving and how can we prepare officers to better deal with their day and mitigate risk to the public and the officers, etc. And I'd seen a pattern of vehicle stops, generally videotaped officer-involved shootings, where before the shooting happened, the officer would pull a vehicle over. Maybe it's not stolen. Maybe it is stolen. Maybe it's just a routine, quote, nothing is routine in policing, but call it a stop. And the brake lights would stay on. And the officer would walk up to the vehicle and engage in conversation. And moments later, either a couple of seconds or 20 seconds later, they're involved in a shooting. The suspect takes a gun out, shoots a cop. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? These brake lights are glaring red. There was a trooper who had a cadet out for a ride along, and they walked up to a vehicle, a pickup truck, and the brake lights were still on. And obviously I knew what was going to happen because I knew it was a fatal officer-involved shooting. But as they walked up to the car, the brake lights were on. So I'm like, what is going on here? And so I asked a few guys from the Force Science group. I was down in a San Jose course in 2009, and also some street survival courses where we meeting of the minds of tactical experts all around the world. And I said, guys, I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm not a researcher. This isn't defined by any standards of research, but I've observed a lot of officer-involved shootings at vehicles, from vehicles, when an officer walks up to a car and the brake lights are still on. So they started to look at it, and I thought the best we could come up with as a group was, well, I guess there's a lot of tension in the suspect who is about to murder the officer or attempt to murder the officer. And that is, they pull the vehicle over, but there's human aggression happening. The brain is not functioning rationally. They're kind of panicking, and they want. If they take off in a pursuit, then there's assets rolling in, and you got the pursuit drones and air support, et cetera, and other vehicles. But if they want to make it quick, they pull over. But a lot of the times, they'll just keep their foot on the brake, either to make a quick getaway, is maybe what they're thinking, or they might not even be thinking because of the overwhelming stress of, I'm going to kill this cop in a couple seconds. I just got to wait till she gets a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. And so they haven't gone into the normal mode of pull the vehicle over, take the foot off their brake, or put the shifter through drive, pass reverse, or white light to rear, and then running lights only, and the brake lights come off. It doesn't mean all the time that you see red lights that there's going to be an officer being attacked, but an inordinate amount of time, I've tied the two things together. So if you do see red brake lights, beware that it might just be a chance to go, well, hang on a minute. Well, the anomaly is they haven't put the car in park yet. Are they waiting for me to get out and then they can take off? I've had that happen a couple of times in Vancouver. But are they laying in wait? So it might just mean hold back for a second, let your eyes adjust to the light, and bring some other additional resources, or maybe get on the loud hailer, flip that PA over and say, driver, turn the vehicle up, put the car in park, turn the vehicle off. And if they take off, well, then you're prepared to get into pursuit. You haven't even left your vehicle yet, so there's less risk for you and easier to catch people when you're behind the wheel. So beware. Red lights, beware.
Listen to your gut.
Yes. Number 18, get there safely. Speaking of vehicles, there's a lot of police officers who are killed in the line of duty or seriously injured because of vehicle collisions. Could be a single vehicle going too fast for conditions, pursuits, collisions at intersections. Intersections are one of the most dangerous locations an officer can enter into, just because of what I call the 5 S's. Speeding for the citizen, or maybe it's a stolen car. Maybe it's just a stupid driver. That's another S, a shitty driver. Again, sorry for swearing. Or a stoned driver. So intersections that officers pass through, whether on regular patrol or in a pursuit situation, are inherently risky just because of the physics behind it. So getting there safely means drive in accordance with your emergency vehicle operations mandates for sure. Only speed when it's necessary, and get there safely. Because if you get in a collision that's happened, officers responding to a call, good for them. But the environment is unpredictable, and sure enough, people aren't paying attention. There's some bad drivers out there. They got music cranked, and they just blow through a yellow light or even a red light, and the officers are injured or killed. So a lot of Officer Down Memorial page is a great resource to pay respects to officers that died in line of duty, but it also breaks down the causal factors and the modality of death for officers. There's a Canadian site and also the U.S. site. And vehicle, I think in the 95 deaths in the U.S. this year, 16 have been by vehicle, I think 38 by gunfire. But it used to be, the scale was a little higher before. Almost used to be 50% of officer-involved injuries, serious injuries or death were caused by vehicle collisions. So, you hear about the human aggression stories a little more, but an officer death is an officer death, and it's tragic for the family and the public and the police family as well. So we need to be able to get there safely to be able to do our job.
Episode 2, talked to Brian Carter about this, because really after the academy, unless you go to a specialty squad, you're not getting extra driver training. So
for sure.
It's very, very rare. So, but a lot of officers do, like you said, they die in
also
vehicle
remind officers at the academy, and also I think in the book, just keep the window cracked a little bit. Even if it's inclement weather and you're working in Wisconsin or Alberta or BC, it's pouring rain or snowing, you tend to keep the windows up so you don't get a little wet on your uniform. But just having the window open an inch will allow ambient sound to be heard. And it could be an acceleration at an intersection. It could be screeching brakes. And it'll alert the officer that, to be heads up that there's something happening. So we need to use all of our senses in policing, particularly hearing. And, it's nice to have music on in the car, driving around for sure. Used to do it all the time, pass the time, but also, keep you awake and alert and hear some music, sing along. You got to enjoy yourself and be happy in the patrol car, but just keep the windows cracked a little bit. You might even hear someone, yelling, "Hey, stop!" Or you might even hear screams. Or it could be a basketball bounces out in front of your car and the parent's screaming because the kid's chasing the basketball. So just keep your heads up and your ears open.
Yep. I'm going to throw one in there. Number 5, too many yellers.
Too many yellers, yes.
And that is something that's always kind of drive me nuts out on the street, or we address it quite a bit in training, is when you get a group of officers and everyone's yelling instructions to the person and that person has no idea what you actually want from them.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, too many yellers. We'll use our voice appropriately, and we can up the volume. We can give police commands. That's fantastic. Be very clear and concise with what you need somebody to do in a critical moment, as opposed to our communication skills about de-escalation. This is where you need something done urgently. So it could, for example, be the warrant, and door gets kicked in if you're allowed to breach the door and use force to get through, depending on the circumstances. But if you have 3 or 4 cops going, one saying something like, "Get on the ground," and the other guy just came from a tactical course somewhere, and he said, "Well, let's get the subject to face away from you," and he'd learned that for the last 4 days. He says, "Turn around." Another guy says, "Suspect, lift your shirt up," to clear the waistband. So you got all these different things happening, and it can be very confusing, not just for the subject who's facing the arrest here, but also for the police officers. So establish who's going to be the communicator. And you got a plan. If something happens, then someone else will maybe take over comms. But let's get it all lined up so we have a layered force response option. But that when the one officer said, "Get on the ground," Which isn't a bad idea, because higher the threat, the lower they go, and you can isolate people a little bit better and prevents them from thinking about running as easily. But the other guy said turn around. So when you hear those two things together, the suspect maybe heard turn around. So he does that, at which point he gets shot because the guy thought he was turning around to reach into his waistband or leave or something, or access the gun that was over there by the kitchen counter, and he gets shot. And in the aftermath of all this and the after-action reports and all the investigations, the body cam or even the witness accounts are going to say, well, I said get on the ground. Ooh, I said turn around. Oh.
Yeah.
But, so be very clear and concise, because it can prevent some chaos from happening for sure.
Excellent. All good words of advice. Clive, where can they get the book?
They can get the book, thanks for asking, Eric, at Amazon.com or Amazon.ca or Amazon.au if you're in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
You can search under books. That's all you got to do is open up Amazon, go to books, and then scroll, type in 50, that's 50, tactical tips for law. And as soon as you start to work the right enforcement, it fills it in for you. I don't know how it does that. It's artificial intelligence. And it'll pop up. And you can get delivered in a couple of days if you like.
Nice. Clive, anything, what's next for you? Anything in the near future? Going to make a movie? How are you? What's left?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to stay in touch with all my friends in policing, which is amazing. And as everyone knows here, the family of support for law enforcement is a global support. Just try and stay healthy, stay fit, and be thankful every day for what I've learned and what I was able to contribute to the community.
Nice.
It's been a real pleasure, and I'm happy to hand it over if I'm able to guys like yourselves and all the women and men in the training sections and everywhere in policing that want to make us better than yesterday.
Nice words. Anything we missed that you wanted to touch on really quick before we end it? No,
I don't think so. But as soon as I get in the car and take the dog to the park, I'll go, man, I forgot. But people can reach out to me anytime, clive@bluetrainingsystems.ca, and I'd be happy to communicate and answer any questions anyone might have.
Awesome. Well, that is it. Thanks again, Clive. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks, Eric.
All right,
stay safe.
Thanks for listening, and you can check out our Facebook page at Forced Options Training or on X at Forced Options Pod.